Let's talk about Dheepan, which is the new film from a French filmmaker called Jacques Audiard. His previous stuff is like Rust and Bone, A Prophet, The Beat That My Heart Skipped. What he does is this very kind of strange balance between gritty realism and heightened dreamlike imagery. So I think he said in an interview a while ago that if things were too realistic, they became too boring, and if things were too bizarre and intensely felt, they became implausible. And his entire filmmaking career has been about trying to chart a course between both of these things with a total kind of all-enveloping intensity. That's what he does, and in Dheepan he's done it again. Now, the controversy surrounding this film was that last year at the Cannes Film Festival, it was in competition for the Palme d'Or, which is the ultimate film festival honour. And people during the festival were talking a lot about Carol, the Todd Haynes movie, The Assassin by Ho Shen, which is an incredibly sort of rigorous cineast dream, and Son of Saul as well, this sensational Holocaust film that's coming out in a few weeks' time. And nobody really expected Dheepan to win, but it did. The Coen brothers jury chose it. I wonder, possibly as a bit of a, not a compromise choice, but as a film that spoke to a lot of different members, rather than being something like The Assassin, which is, for my money, just a total masterpiece, but a really tough-going, difficult film that you have to be in the right mindset to watch. So I went into Dheepan wondering what could possibly top these three films. And I think, first of all, it is an incredibly timely movie. You've got these three Tamil refugees who pose as a family to secure passage to France from Sri Lanka. Now, Dheepan, I'm going to refer to the main character as being called Dheepan. It's not actually his name. The actor, Anthony Jasuta-san, is playing this former Tamil tiger who adopts the identity of a man who's been dead for 6 months in order to have his passport that matches up with a wife and a daughter that roughly correspond to the two people that he's trying to secure passage to France with. So there's this idea that in order to advance his life, he has to slip into a dead man's shoes in order to get to the other side of the world. And Audiard finds this kind of dreamy lyricism in the journey itself, in that when they finally arrive in France, which starts basically is the beginning of the film, that passage from across the world, you have this wonderful shot of them walking out of the darkness with what look like kind of neon halos suspended above their heads, and actually they're novelty hair bows that Dheepan's selling on the streets of Paris to tourists, passers-by, people like that. But it's this idea that this very banal sight that you see in any busy city, which is kind of people who are come across immigrants to make money on the streets in whatever way possible. He can turn that into this kind of visionary experience, and that's exactly what he does. So Dheepan and his family are shipped out to this Paris banlieue where basically the entire block is under control of this drug dealing gang, and it's run like this totalitarian state. And Yalini, Dheepan's wife, is enlisted as a carer for this old man whose son is involved in the drug trade at the block. And meanwhile, their daughter is sent off to school, and Dheepan takes a job as a caretaker. And a lot of the film is just about the sheer toughness of getting through every day.
Sorry, their daughter is how old?
She's 9 years old. Right. So she is actually, her integration into French society, because she's in school, she's often seen translating for Dheepan and Yalini, is much more smooth than her notional mother and father, who aren't, of course, her mother and father at all. They're trying to get by in the block, and there's this wonderful moment where they will basically do pretty much anything to make integration easier. And Yalini, at one stage, Dheepan suggests to her, well, why not wear a headscarf? Now, that's nothing to do with her religion, but because there's this expectation that people from that part of the world wear headscarves, she decides to do it just in order to pass and in order to have this status in the society. So, of course, headscarves being a massive talking point in France at the moment, it's a really kind of clever inversion of that, where by adopting it, you're kind of slipping into society in a way that smooths over the cracks, even if you still end up being a member of the underclass as a result of doing it. At least you know where you stand. There's this, so for the most part of the film, that's what goes on. Then there's this incredibly strange double ending, which is, like a few films actually out this week, Nasty Baby, which we're going to talk about shortly, and also Midnight Special. Two events kind of scream out of nowhere, one of which is this kind of slightly bizarre Death Wish style rampage, which Audiard stages with total kind of stylishness and his, again, he makes it kind of dreamlike, and he has that gritty violence and the dreamlike nature of it as well. And then there's another ending which is even more bizarre, which could almost be a kind of a hallucination, but I won't kind of explain what that is. But it's a very kind of an insecure ending to a film that you think you know where you stand with it. Now, because of that, I would really like to see Dheepan again before settling on whether I just merely liked it or loved it. I have to say it didn't grab me in quite the same way as A Prophet did and Rust and Bone did. But I think this is a film that will perhaps reward a second viewing.